As the corporate sector evolves, Berkha Africa remains committed to cultivating world-class thought leaders and providing innovative, human-centered solutions that shape a prosperous future for African governments and businesses. About Berkha Africa. Berkha Africa is a platform that houses expert consultants from across the African sub-region that provide strategic sustainable leadership, organizational development, corporate governance, coaching, and ESG advisory services to businesses and African governments. Berkha's strategic thrust is to strengthen strategic alignment for Africa's development by bridging the gap between governments, businesses, and industry experts for leadership and business solutions, serving as a center for excellence and transformative leadership insights in Africa. The consortium is dedicated to shaping ethical, visionary, productive, and sustainable businesses and leadership across Africa. Through advisory, training, and coaching, Berkha supports executives, managers, and organizations in achieving excellence, growth, and sustainable impact. Visit our website www.berkhafrica.com for more information.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow change makers across Africa, Europe, Asia, wherever you're joining us this morning from. On behalf of Berkha Africa, I warmly welcome you to another transformative edition of the Leadership Dialogue Series, a platform where we engage thought leaders, HR professionals, and coaches in shaping Africa's leadership future through conversations, reflections, and shared wisdom. Today's conversation is themed The HR Coach, Shaping Culture, People, and Purpose. We gather today at a defining moment in Africa's leadership, an organizational development journey where the human resource manager, director, or supervisor is no longer just about compliance, administration, and implementation of policies, but more about purpose, culture, and transformation. As organizations navigate change and complexity, the HR manager or HR leader as a coach becomes the bridge that connects strategy to humanity and performance to purpose across institutions. Across Africa, HR leadership is evolving from administrative management to strategic transformation. But there is a critical gap that continues to persist. And in that, we're looking at the transactional HR systems that overshadow strategic impact, limited leadership pipeline development, weak coaching cultures, and low emotional intelligence capacity, poor data analytics and reliance on intuition, and cultural barriers that silence feedback and innovation across the HR function. You can attest with me that globally, HRs face similar challenges: burnout, lack of inclusivity at the top level, over-reliance on technology at the expense of human connection, And the key question for today's conversation is, how can coaching bridge these gaps and redefine HR leadership across Africa? To help us explore this important topic today, we have with us distinguished panel of HR leaders and certified coach and organizational development experts whose work reflect a deep commitment to people transformation. Today with me on the Leadership Dialogue, I have Chanel Manduzik, all the way from South Africa. Chanel leads Leapfrog Investment Talent Accelerator, a platform that is dedicated to shaping strong leadership culture and people practices across companies in Africa and Asia. Her work spreads even into corporate Ghana. Chanel partners with institutions and executive teams to build high-performing cultures, strengthen leadership capabilities, and design talent systems that support sustainable growth. Also with me today as a special guest speaker, supporting Chanel is Mami Ekia JC. Should I say Coach Mami Ekia JC? Mami Ekia is a known name in the HR space in Ghana. She's the managing partner for 565 Limited. She works with people at personal and leadership level and organizational level. She's passionate about seeing people and organizations thrive. And her prime interest is in supporting organizations and their people with business strategy functions. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Chanel and Mamia on the show. Chanel and Mamia, you are welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you, Liziane.
You're welcome. And if you're joining us from Ghana, Sierra Leone, Liberia, South Africa, Uganda, Kenya, all the other African countries, please, whether it's on LinkedIn, Facebook, WhatsApp, just say hi in the chat box so that we can acknowledge you, your name and where you are joining us from. Also, we would like to hear from you. The conversation today is a very, very interesting and transformational one, especially for HR professionals. But mind you, HR is not just for those in the office. Everybody is a leader of himself first, and then the people within your space. So you can contribute to the conversation by sending your chats or messages and questions in the text box. Thank you very much. Chanel and Mami, can you say hi to our audience?
Hi. Hello.
Great. Yeah. Before we zoom into business, Chanel, I just want to give the two of you 1 minute. Just tell us a bit about what you're doing in South Africa and Africa, and then Mami, what you do in Ghana and across Africa, and then we'll jump straight into the conversation for today.
Sure. Thanks, Liziane. Yes, I'm based here in South Africa, Johannesburg. I head up the Leapfrog Talent Accelerator. I'm an industrial psychologist by profession, and I've been at Leapfrog for about 7 years now. And the Talent Accelerator, it's quite uniquely positioned because originally it was set up to support all the companies that Leapfrog invests in. Leapfrog is an investment company, and we particularly invest in companies across emerging markets. And then they said, they recognized there was such a big gap in talent, and CEOs and the leadership teams of all these companies we were investing in were really struggling with this whole concept of talent development and how do they get on top of it. And that's how the Talent Accelerator came to be. So although I'm based in South Africa, I do no work in South Africa currently. All my work is across Africa and across Asia, particularly in Ghana and Nigeria, Kenya, and India. And I absolutely love what I do, and I'm really grateful to be here today. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us on the show in the Pushing the Drive for Transforming Africa Leadership. Mami Ekia, you have a minute to tell us a bit about what you're doing in Ghana. I've done the introduction already, but let's hear it from you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Liziane. My name is Mami Gaizi. And 565 is a firm we set up in 2018, and the prime interest was to, after serving Africa, so I worked in West Central, South and East Africa, supporting people and organizational functions at the senior level. We set up 565 to particularly support culture and people and organizational drives through very strategic moves. So what we do is we come into the business, we understand where the pain points are, then we curate together with the leadership and the team members solutions that would drive the people function to deliver business results. So our aim is, one, to work through people, and two, to deliver business results. So these two, we feel, are the bedrocks of every enterprise. Thank you.
Awesome. So it means the only way we can deliver business results is by working through people.
Yes.
Great.
The main. It's not the only, the main.
The main.
Yes.
The people are the drivers of results.
Yes.
Good. So talking about people, Mami, how can HR professionals, you are a coach and you also practice in HR as a professional. How do you think can HR professionals use coaching mindset and tools to shift organizational culture from a compliance driven to growth oriented and empowering?
Okay. Thank you very much, Lizzie Ann. I like the starting point of the conversation. So we're looking at two big drivers, right? We are talking about culture here, which is my breath. This is literally what I love to think about and talk about on a daily basis. So when you speak about culture, it's basically talking about how we do things around here. Don't let us fuss around big definitions. Culture in any space is how we do things around here. And it doesn't only exist when we have multinational businesses or big enterprises. Wherever there are social beings, there's a culture. So the culture of any space, be it a family, be it a social grouping, be it an organization, be it a church, whatever, it's how we do things around here. So if you came to my home, how we do things around here will define the culture of our family. If I came into Berkha, Africa, how you guys engage, how you do business, how you interact, how you collaborate, is the culture of Berkha, Africa. So when we talk about coaching and we're looking at how people or leaders can partner others in thought-provoking and creative conversations to maximize the potential of the personal and professional growth of the team members. Then we are talking about using coaching as a tool. So partnering with others, partnering with the team members to deliver or maximize the personal and professional potential of these team members to shape how we do things around here. So that's very interesting. When HR professionals see businesses as delivering a certain solution to the prime consumers or those we are targeting, then we would see that these conversations are not supposed to be every 6 months at the end of the year when we want to assess what people have done in terms of their goals and objectives, but the continuous and everyday way of engaging. So for HR professionals, especially, my take would be, instead of taking on the headache of dealing with every single employee, and you can tell that the bigger the organization, the more difficult this becomes, is to set up channels of empowering and ensuring that these leaders we are supporting, these leaders we are partnering with, so you're talking about your technical leaders, your commercial leaders, your process oriented leaders, your operations leaders, your finance leaders, all the leaders in the organization, we support them to build capacities of engaging their people in conversations. What are some of these conversations we are having? A lot of the times, HR people are interested in bringing on, so we do great with onboarding. And even for the onboarding, a lot of the focus is on orientation. Mind you, for me, onboarding is a bigger picture than just the orientation. So onboarding is making sure that the individual or the talent we have brought on board is able to navigate the initial to the midterm to seriously embedding into the culture of the organization. So we are talking of onboarding. How are we bringing the people on? How are we making them comfortable to, as it were, settle in and be able to bring themselves into how we do things around here? I mean, the positive part of it, and to deliver the reason we brought them on board. The second one is ongoing performance. How do we ensure that we are engaging the people in conversations that will tip into giving them the tools, the resources, and the collaborative atmosphere to deliver? The third thing is, when people are already engaged, how do we make sure that they are fully engaged? We don't wait for them to say, I am finding some other options, so I'm out of here. Then we go and do exit interviews. It's about continuously engaging these people to ensure that they're delivering. So for me, HR professionals, we are engaging our leaders, engaging the leaders to engage the people. First, when they enter. Second, ensuring that they are settling in. Third, ensuring that they are performing. And fourth, and most importantly, ensuring that we are building how we do things around here properly to deliver the strategic objectives of the businesses. Lizzie-Anne.
Very, very, very interesting take right there, Coach Mami. And you hammered more on the need for engagement. So, in driving growth and empowering people, there is a very, very crucial need for engagement. And I think that leads me to my next question to Chanel. That, yes, what are some of the practical steps that HR leaders can take to align cultural transformation initiatives with the broader strategic goals of their organizations? Mami Ekia has spoken about engagement. What are some of these engagement? What are other practical steps that HR leaders can use?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think if we just take a step back and look at the traditional role that HR leaders have played in the past, as you mentioned before, it's been very much administrative intense. It's been very much operationally heavy. And I've seen working a lot in some of the countries and markets I've been exposed to over the last 7 years. If I think back to maybe 6 or 7 years ago, that was very much the role of HR. And even when I spoke to leaders across the various organizations, in their mind, HR was about administrating all the different processes, getting the policies in place. And there's been a shift. There's been a great shift since then, which is positive to see. But I think HR has a massive challenge, and they're really stuck in quite a tricky position, because not only are they playing a role as coach to the employees, but they're playing a role as coach to the organization, because they have dual roles, right? They have this role in which they have to help the company achieve their goals, but also help employees develop their goals and ensure that there's some form of alignment. And when we look at culture, it's really about ensuring there's that alignment across the board, from company goals all the way down to employee goals. And that's not an easy thing to do. That's quite a tricky exercise. And that's where we talk about the strategic power of HR. So when it comes to more practical steps, what I typically suggest and what I've done, and it's been quite useful exercise, is I typically start with the basics. And the basics is taking a look at what are the strategic ambitions of the organization. Where does this organization want to be in the next 5 years? What are their priority areas? Have a look at how the talent strategy supports that. And that's just saying, is our people function set up in a way to help the organization strategically deliver on what their priority areas are? Are we set up to be an admin process, or are we set up to be a strategic enabler? And just from a simple taking a step back review and having a look at this, you'll be able to uncover what could we do more of. And very often it would be, let's look at the company's vision, mission, and values, right? We talk about vision, mission, and values a lot. And very often vision, mission, and values are just things that you put up on the wall. It's nice to have on your website. But if they're on the wall, how closely are they embedded across the organization? Do people live these values? Do they know the vision? Does someone wake up in the morning, no matter how junior you are, and say, I'm going to work because I am going to, and apply that vision? So when it looks at practical elements, it's about the HR team playing coach and guiding the organization into embedding what the values, the mission, and the vision are, and making it practical. And that's about embedding it throughout the talent value chain. That's about coaching leadership on how to act and how to lead effectively in relation to what your vision and your associated behaviors are. So it is an in-depth process. It requires you to, as Mami was saying, looking at the onboarding process and saying, how does our onboarding process support the culture we want to create? How does the onboarding process from the first day, actually, I take that back. Your onboarding process doesn't start from the day you start. The onboarding process starts from the day you start engaging with that person in the recruitment process. From that point on, they must start to feel the sense of your culture, because you are acting in accordance with the relevant values and the associated behaviors. And then it's about looking at the next step in your talent value chain, right? Whether that's performance management, if that's talent management, succession planning, taking your leadership team through a development process where they are fully equipped to lead in relation to the desired culture that you want to create. So it's not a straightforward answer. It does get quite complicated, but it takes from an initial talent strategy review, and then you start looking at your talent value chain and saying, how can I as coach and HR coach the organization, coach the system, and coach my people so that we are all aligned to the overall shared purpose and culture of the organization? I hope that answers the question.
Very much, very much. Thank you very much, Chanel. But something just ran through my mind. And Mami, you are a coach. You are a certified coach. You're all talking around the same lines. But what's running through my mind is, does the African HR practitioner understand coaching or his or her coaching role in performing his HR function?
Yes, I'd say that we have a large understanding of that. I will pick something from Chanel's submission on how HR has shifted. I'd say, having done HR for about 2 decades, about 15 years ago, this whole conversation about strategic partnership. Remember, there was a time when HR was about having a seat at the table. We've gone past that. We are at the table. I mean, there were schools of thought that said, grab a chair and come to the table. You don't need an invitation. Some people said they had to be invited. Whatever it is, we are at the table. As a matter of fact, I have turned down roles when I used to do corporate. I've turned down HR director positions, HR whatever positions, because the role did not report directly to the CEO. I didn't see how I could be the person you're asking to hold the mandate for a key segment of the business, such as your people and processes, and I have to go through an operations manager or operations director or a finance director, it's a no for me. And that's a personal principle. Your role at that table is to remind, and that's coaching, is to remind the people seated at the table, what are we doing to ensure that that which we say we exist for, which is our mission, and that which is important to us, that's our values, is at play in how we are delivering product development, service curation, customer experience, call it whichever part of the business, technical processes, engineering support, whatever it is. The reminder you are sharing is, when I look at where we want to go, which is our strategy, and I look at why we exist, our mission, what our destination is, our vision, what is most important to us, our values. These conversations are not allowing us to live how we want to deliver on these. So I say we understand it. Question is, how is that environment, which is how we do things around here, the culture, we've spoken about it, Chanel has given a lot of in-depth analysis about it. And when I'm supporting enterprises, my question is, how are we doing things around here? You can't get into an organization where people are afraid to make suggestions about improvements. People are holding back to engage their managers in conversations about what they feel could be better, and tell me that you have a growth-oriented culture. That's not, it can't be. So when we flush around a lot of the big words, they are nice. We are growth-oriented, vision, blah, 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 something enabled, all the beautiful words. Question is, if I walked into the organization from the security point through to your reception, before I start talking to a CFO, a chief people or officer, whoever, I should feel that this organization knows what they're about. This is how they do things around here. So when Chanel mentions things around looking at the strategy, looking at the talent strategy, and embedding them into everyday conversations, that's what it is. So to your question, yes, we know. HR professionals now know, unless the person is an administrator, but a true HR professional knows that they are a coach, because our role is highly consultant, but also very embedded on the process. You know what Chanel says is a complex conversation. I cannot sit as a chief people officer and all I'm interested in is strategy. Do you know that the business as well requires of me that the basic processes, the basic policies, the how to do things are also locked down? So in as much as we are looking at strategy, we are also very reminded that our operational strength must be intact. So it's almost like I'm expected to understand the steps, but I'm also expected to be present as soon as the conversation is elevated to the top level. So it makes it very interesting for us as professionals to have a nimble nature. So when I'm talking to HR people, I want to know whether you understand what your business is about. So Chanel will tell you, from a VC perspective, if they're talking to the HR person and they don't understand the business of the business, that's already a red flag. What are we here to do? What does Berkha do? The HR person must understand how we do business, how we make money. The business of the business must be locked down. Then you understand the strategy. But above all, you're also ensuring that if another colleague came to you about the nitty-gritties of how to deal with the disciplinary conversation, you know what to do. So we are such crucial elements of our businesses. We are dealing with the needle and thread things, and we are dealing with the big design as well. So you don't sit and say, oh, I'm going to just focus on the big picture things. So I just want to do the little things. As a CPO, as a HRM, as a business partner, HRBP, your role is to understand why we're here. What does this business exist to do? Lock it down. How are we doing it? And what are the behaviors we want our leaders and our team members to be able to engage on an everyday basis? So, Leziane, this conversation in 1 hour is exciting, but Chanel will tell you this is our everyday.
Exhaustive.
It's our everyday bread and butter, and as well as how we make. So it's really, to your question, we know, the HR people, professionals now know. Sometimes it's the challenge of how to navigate from one level to the other, and the different partners that we are dealing with. We're dealing with the board, we're dealing with the C-suite, we're dealing with managers, we're dealing with supervisors, then we come to the team members, because every part of the organization is critical. So when you sit at the top, your role is to make sure that the machinery is working. When you're in the middle, your role is to make sure that the processes and the people are working. When you are at the bottom as an HR officer, your role is to make sure that the basic things are working. So depending on where you're sitting, this conversation could mean differently to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mami.
I hope that has given some credence to our professionals, because Chanel and I are doing a lot.
Yes, I love the bit where you said HR professionals know, but I would want to stand in the middle of that, because in line with what I do, I've come across a lot of HRs who actually do not know, who actually are not fully aware of what is expected of their function as professionals. And for me, I think that has been the bane in corporate Africa, because when a professional is more academic and knows this is what is, but how do you translate it into practicalities that we can see tangible results and change and impact in the institution? I think those are the drivers that Chanel, yourself, and other HR professionals that have gone through the grind would be pushing to. And that is one of the reasons why this conversation, Berkha Africa, is taking on conversations like this to further create and ingrain that awareness that, yes, there has been a transition, and you have to plug in for you to remain relevant as a professional. And the issue of coaching, you see, you made mention of how, as you step into an institution as a HR, you should be able to identify what is this institution about? Where are you headed? What is your vision, your value, your goals? In a case, I'm just playing the devil's advocate, because you have a lot of HRs that are struggling. They give you a seat at the table, all right, but I wouldn't say it's a 4-legged seat, maybe a 3-legged seat. And you need to know how to create the balance and make yourself very relevant. Mami, you have HRs who walk into institutions that do not even know their whereabouts. Yes, they have a vision and mission, just statements on the walls and all. But leadership does not fully understand where they are headed. How should HRs navigate in such environment where the culture, should I say there is no culture, but the culture is not advancing or aiding growth, leadership, or achievement of organizational goals?
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much, Leziane. Quite a loaded question. I'll try and distill them one after the other. Let me just say, as a matter of fact, with all the times that we've been doing culture work, and Chanel will tell you, traveling around Africa, engaging with businesses, there can never be a culture that is not either sponsored by, actively supported by, or passively allowed by the leaders. Culture is one of the things that we don't do bottom up. No, it has to be toned from the top. So when you walk into an organization and you have a seat at the table and you're looking to impact and influence the culture of the organization, and you start gathering people at the grassroots and you start talking to people about how to do things, and you allow your colleagues and those higher up especially from the board level, to do as business as usual, you're already set up to fail, and it can be very frustrating. Let me tell you another truth. The leaders we work with will tell you that the problem is at the bottom. When we do culture surveys, the lower you go, the more gaping the gaps become. Most of the people at the top, in very few organizations where admittance is now inevitable, we can't do without admitting that we have a culture that is not supporting the goals of the business. A lot of the business leaders will tell you, we're doing everything okay. Everything is fine. The people issues are okay. Our processes are fine. Our customers are happy. We're doing everything okay. Very few will admit it. The starting point is to sit with the board and agree. Do we want a shift? In my case, I'll ask, do we want a transformation or not? Because for all you know, they are actually happy with what's happening. If that's how they want to serve the business, then the conversation would be, are the talent you are interacting with to attract in the business also aligned with this? Liziane, Chanel will tell you that when you speak with talent and the higher people go, the more people are now in 2025 and going, and this has been on for about 5 years now, will tell you, especially during and post-COVID, people will tell you that they are looking to go into organizations based on their culture. People are not just interested in the bucks we are putting on the table, about the attractiveness of the role, but they are also very, very sensitive to the kind of environment they are going to work in. So my first question would be, are you talking to the leadership to understand what culture we want to set in place? One of the things that I've always told my clients is, culture is not an all-inclusive space. We can't have a culture that admits very hardworking, very purpose-driven, very vision-oriented, and very present employees, and also admits very lazy people, very laissez-faire people, very anything goes people. No, you can't have that. So first and foremost, at the leadership level, what do we want? What culture do we want? The HR professional must be empowered, not empowered, must be skilled to engage in conversations from the board level to the suite level about what do we want? What do we want our culture to deliver? What do we want out of this process? When we've locked that down, we want a culture that's attracting talent, that understands, like Liziane said, I want my people to wake up and be so burdened with the mission of this organization that they live the values, and the values are behaviors. So that's the starting point. What do we want? We then define who we are attracting into our business. When we have attracted the business and the people we want into the business, then we go into what behaviors are we rewarding? What behaviors are we frowning upon? Because then they become the everyday, day-to-day way of work, which goes back to our culture. So Liziane, HR person, you go into a space, you've been given a 3-legged seat, even if it's a 1-legged seat. Hang on it and say, as I'm hanging, my question to this table is, what do we want our culture to deliver? When we've said that, now go and define the talent strategy that will deliver that, and come back and let's engage from there. If the people sitting at the table are themselves toxic, are themselves negative energy, are themselves not moved by the mission, are themselves not living the values of the organization, your work hasn't started to go down. You are still there. You must hang on that 1-legged seat until they get it. And in some instances, they may not. And you may have to be the person now coaching and partnering the organization at a higher level, which is the board, to start removing some of those people. Because so long as they are defining how things are done here, it'll be very difficult for you to go into the grain of the organization to begin to deliver difference. It will be difficult. And Chanel will tell you, there are instances where your CEO is giving lip service to how we want to do things, but they are behaving differently. The CEO themselves. Yeah. And sometimes, especially when the CEO is also the founder, we've got a lot of work to do. So first, let's work at the top. Let's define this. Because as for culture, Liziane, and I'll stand to any debate any day, we start from the top. What we do, imagine, Liziane, Chanel starts going to work and she's got her hair colored, she's wearing pajamas, she doesn't have to say that this is welcome here. As the head of strategy or strategic people, that's it.
That's
The
a
MD
message
comes
you are
in,
sending across.
that's
It's
it.
okay to do
The
this.
MD is using unwelcoming language in meetings. He goes into talent or town hall conversations and dismisses employee needs and concerns. That's to say, as a supervisor, I can do that to my team members. It's defined from the top. Thank you. Chanel will add to it from her own travels, because in Africa, and she will agree, we've got such varied, amazing talent. It's just how we're defining these things and being very purposeful about driving them through the organization. Otherwise, our businesses can be so profitable, but because we're not aligning A, the purpose, B, the culture, and C, the people processes, we are struggling.
I hear, yes, Chanel, before I come to Chanel, I hear a few things which, if you are online and you are listening or watching, I think you need to take note of these things. I hear the need for high professionalism, coaching skills, how you use question, both from the leader, right from the top to the bottom. How do we do things here? What do we really want as the leadership? What do we want our culture to deliver? How do we drive purpose, systems, and people? So if you are HR, take note of these things. These require high level of professionalism. And coaching is not just, when we talk about coaching, a lot of people that, yes, you need coaching skills, you need the essentials if you want to practice as a professional coach. Berkha Africa, we run the first level ICF coach certification training. But coaching is basically how you use questions to harness potentials, to find solutions, and drive people to ownership. Chanel, Mami has explored a lot about the role of HR, even if it's a one-leg seat. Use professionalism, be resilient, and see how you can use your skills to navigate. Because most times, and Mami, you attest to this, most times, our leadership do not really know what they're about. I'm sorry to say. They are also very confused. And that is where the power and the role of HR as a coach comes in. The kind of questions that you ask at the board level, the kind of questions that you ask at ESCO, the kind of questions that you ask at management that trigger them to reflect on vision, on the mission, on the values, on the direction, on the strategies. That's a lot of work. And I believe that is why the HR function exists. Chanel, so with all this as a background, how do you think HRs can help connect employees with their personal purpose? Because now we have the organizational purpose, but how do we connect the personal purpose with organizational mission and values, especially in public sector and community-based institutions? Because in the private sector, Africa, a lot of work is being done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll get to that question now. And just something I wanted to contribute to Mami's statement, which I so agree with, about the role of leadership in all of this. And something was a game changer for me is essentially culture is the shadow of leadership, right? So if you can help leadership understand that culture is essentially the shadow of leadership, positives and negatives, that can be a big game changer in the way we view and work with leadership, whether it's the board level, your exco team, etc., and helping them to just navigate through this. And then coming to your question, Lizzie Ann, yes, that's the key to all of this, right? How do we translate purpose, vision, etc., into something employees can see and believe in for themselves, because that's the connecting point. There was this example someone told me who I work with quite closely, and he said, it's well known, you could probably read about it, but just the statement of working at NASA, as an example. Someone went to visit NASA headquarters, and they were walking through, and they bumped into the janitor, and the janitor was busy cleaning in the bathrooms. And the janitor made a comment to this person and said, there was some conversation, and the person said, "Oh, what do you do here?" And the janitor said and responded to him saying, "I'm helping put someone on the moon." And that just emphasizes, no matter where you are in the organization, you want them to connect to that purpose. No matter what your role is, right? You want them to connect to that. So essentially, when it looks, how do we help employees relate to the vision, the mission, and the values? You want them to feel part of it, and you want their own personal values to resonate with the company's values. And that doesn't always happen, right? You might be part of this organization, this huge culture transformation that might be happening, and you don't actually resonate with these the values and the culture that's coming, and that's absolutely okay. But when you are doing a culture transformation project or a program, some sort of transformation along the long term, essentially, if people aren't aligning to those values, then they're probably not the employees or the leaders that you want to have part of this organization moving into the future. We often refer to culture, and you might have heard of this before, as the smell of the place, right? Does it feel like Calcutta in summertime? Or does it feel like a beautiful spring in Fontainebleau? How does it feel? What does it smell like to be here? And if someone doesn't agree with that and doesn't like the smell of the place, then you start to let go of certain people who may not align themselves to that. So there's certain things that you can do, right? There are certain practical elements that you can start to do. But as a coach, firstly, you need to coach leadership in the shared vision and the mission and the values. And then how do you do it across the rest of the organization? Something that can be quite useful for the coach would be, or the HR as coach, is coaching and teaching the rest of the management level, not just your higher leadership, but coaching them on how to play role as a coach to the rest of their employees. So when it comes to performance management processes, it's not about just having a performance review, right? But it's about coaching them through that, helping them understand, well, how do you feel you contribute to this? How does your role contribute to the greater purpose of the organization? And have a coaching conversation, which can be critical. And then also you could have certain things like, and this might sound quite simple, but really powerful, is purpose mapping sessions, which we have tried to do in a company, and it actually went really well. And it can be played by HR, or HR can help coach people through this, but you help employees articulate how their personal values can relate to the organization's vision, or the organization's values. And it's an empowering session. It helps people, no matter where you are across the organization, identify my values, my goals, and how am I going to help get that person onto the moon, which is a really nice way. But there are certain ways in which you can get about it. Another thing is, HR not only coaches employees through this whole process, but they're also coaching the entire system through this transformation. So that can be really tricky, because if you think of yourself as HR, you are seeing the system at play. You are seeing how leadership interacts with employees and vice versa, right? You are seeing if there's any toxic behavior. You are seeing if there's a sense of bureaucracy, which might be limiting you from getting to where you want to be. So there are various ways in which the HR as coach can help employees, help leadership. But something that's also really important is, how do you help the entire system and support the system in getting to the purpose of the organization and the strategic direction.
Awesome. So an interesting question that is running through my mind is, what is a beautiful vision, mission, and strategies without a very, 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 very great and clear-cut culture to advance it? On that note, I'm going to pause. We'll go for a short commercial break, and then I will take some questions and acknowledge everyone who has sent a comment and is joining us. Don't forget to follow our social media handles, Berkha Africa on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We'll go for a short break. Great. Welcome back. Let me just quickly acknowledge those who have joined us. We have Dr. Mavis says, hello, this is Mavis joining from Ghana. We have Josephine Ativo says, great job. Grace Prempe from Ghana, I believe National Communication Authority. And then we have Mami, hello, I'm joining from Ghana. Yanaku, hi Yanaku. Posha joining from Tema says, thanks for this great conversation. Thank you, Posha, for joining us. Diana Nyaji I think she was commenting on one of your presentations, said very, very, Boris. Dr. Mavi says, enjoying the conversation, honest and educative. That's what we are here for, Dr. Mavis. This is the transformative platform. And then we have Alfred Sowa from Ghana. Elomkin says, high professionalism. Yes. And then patience. I'm really enjoying the conversation. Nice to have you on the leadership dialogue. Patience and everyone. Back to the studio. Chanel and Mami. This has been very educative and eye-opening. And as we are wrapping up, coaching as a HR function is a strategic collaborative process. And according to Mami, she says HRs are self-aware. They are now professionally aware of their role as coaches in institution. And according to Chanel, you don't only coach the leadership, you coach the entire system, ask the relevant questions, and provoke people towards a culture that drives growth and connecting purpose to organizational goals. Mami and Chanel, thank you very much. It's been quite educative, and as we are wrapping up, I know this is not the end of the conversation, like Mami said. It's a lot, and the role of HR has transformed. Let me get your closing remarks and parting words to all the HR professionals that are looking and listening to us right now.
Sure. Thank you for having me today. And I'm just so happy to hear that these are the types of conversations that are happening across the continent. Culture is imperative. no matter what size business you're at, as Mami said, it can be the smallest business, but where there are people, you're going to have some sort of culture. So to be aware of your culture, to be aware of your role as HR in navigating culture. And as your companies grow and scale, it becomes even more fundamental. And I'm glad to be part of this conversation. And I look forward to seeing how HR and the role of HR progresses over the next few years, and how we can really navigate through culture effectively, working together as a community.
Mami?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. It's been an awesome conversation, Liziane. Thank you so much, Chanel. I would say that culture is the capital of the organization, right? And so long as people are concerned, if we are not ready to take on the conversations through coaching, of course, then we are going to lose a lot of our talent to competition, because others are very serious about creating work environments that foster growth and sustains business gains. And even if you are a 3-person organization, pay attention to the culture. It's going to come back to bite or leapfrog you. No pun intended, Chanel. Yes, leapfrog your business. Yes, so thank you so much. Let's keep this conversation going on LinkedIn and on all the channels. Culture is the bane of our organizations now, and using coaching conversations can definitely give us the sustainability we seek as HR professionals. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And my key takeaways from the two of you, Chanel says, culture is the shadow of leadership, positives or negatives. That is so solid. Culture is the shadow of leadership, positives or negative. And from Mami, you says it's about the HR sitting in there as a coach, as a transformative agent, not just following directives and becoming a compliance officer, but asking the right questions right from the boardroom. What do we want at the leadership level? What kind of culture do we want to drive? What do we want our culture to deliver? What is the purpose of the institution? What are the systems that we need? And most importantly, how do we work around the people to harness and connect their personal purposes to the organizational purpose and goal? As we conclude today's dialogue, other insights that stand out very strong also is that coaching is the new leadership currency, transforming HR from enforcer to enabler. And the HR as a coach is not a job title, but is a mindset that is meant to fuel purpose, empowerment, and accountability. Through coaching, the HR becomes the architect of culture, the custodian of the people's growth. Remember, we're talking about talent management, employee development, succession planning, and all of it. So the HR as a coach and using coaching conversations would help to drive as the architect of the culture, the custodian of the people growth, and the bridge between individual potentials and institutional purposes. On behalf of Berkha Africa, we want to express a heartfelt gratitude to you, Mami and Chanel. It's been very, very educative and insightful. And like the guest said, the conversation doesn't end here. Follow us on all our Berkha Africa and social media handles, WhatsApp channel. If you haven't joined our WhatsApp channel, please join our WhatsApp channel. You'll find it, the link right in the chat box right now. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, the conversations that drive transformation in Africa, connect to them. And Berkha Africa is the place to go. If you are a HR in Ghana, Liberia, or Sierra Leone, we have programs that are running through. Some of our coaching offerings, we provide team coachings, we provide leadership pipeline coachings, we provide managerial coaching trainings, and also we also provide leadership pipeline development. So join our various social media handles for you to some of the offerings and how Berkha Africa can work along with you in your strategic and professional development. Also, we have coming up our coach certification training. If you haven't signed up yet, please visit our website, www.berkhaafrica.com, and connect with us. Great things are happening at Berkha Africa. Last week, we launched the Africa Youth Leadership Development Program, Coaching and Mentoring Lab, a program that's a 3-month transformative program that is meant to walk 3 senior high secondary school students through coaching and mentoring. We have high-level experienced coach mentors from various African countries that are running this program. Join our social media handles, like I said, and then you get updates on all that is happening in Berkha Africa, Africa Growth Partner. Remember, coaching doesn't just change performance of institutions, it changes people. And when people change, institutions change. So let's walk along and engage in coaching conversations that will transform not only the institutions, but the people that drive the institutions. From Berkha Africa, I am Lizzie-Ann Kwabeji, and thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend, and let the conversation continue. God bless.
As the corporate sector evolves, Berkha Africa remains committed to cultivating world-class thought leaders and providing innovative, human-centered solutions that shape a prosperous future for African governments and businesses. About Berkha Africa. Berkha Africa is a platform that houses expert consultants from across the African sub-region that provide strategic sustainable leadership, organizational development, corporate governance, coaching, and ESG advisory services to businesses and African governments. Berkha's strategic thrust is to strengthen strategic alignment for Africa's development by bridging the gap between governments, businesses, and industry experts for leadership and business solutions, serving as a center for excellence and transformative leadership insights in Africa. The consortium is dedicated to shaping ethical, visionary, productive, and sustainable businesses and leadership across Africa. Through advisory, training, and coaching, Berkha supports executives, managers, and organizations in achieving excellence, growth, and sustainable impact. Visit our website www.berkhaafrica.com for more information.